Welcome back to Boom and Bust. I'm your host, Tony Clement, here at the News Forum, talking to Fatima Zaidi. She is the founder and CEO of Quill Inc., a podcast consultancy talking about podcasting, entertainment generally. Fatima, I'd love to get your point of view about what the next trends are in podcasting, entertainment generally, broadcasting, you name it.
And from an entertainment standpoint, I think, of course, we've touched upon podcasting, which I always say in the 1980s, you had a phone number for your business. In the 1990s, you had a website. In the 2000s, you had social media. And then I think in the next 5 to 10 years, every company will either be on a podcast, have their own podcast, or be advertising on one. So that's definitely one trend I think everyone should be looking out for. And then I'm seeing a really big shift to on-demand content being provided to people. So, I think YouTube's going to have a really interesting I think they're going to have a really interesting just way of passing along content to consumers while it's competing with platforms like Disney, Amazon, Crave, Netflix. And I think that there is going to be a huge consumer trend towards everyone being on some sort of a subscription platform where you can basically have content at the tip of your fingers in bite-sized content on demand. So I think that's going to be another really big trend. And then I think when it comes to innovation in tech, one thing that we also have to look for is people are always looking for security and reliability when it comes to their data. And I think that is going to be informing how trends are going to be shifting. Off the top of my head, I'm a huge consumer of WhatsApp. That's how I communicate with a lot of my clients, a lot of friends and family, internationally, globally. But I have currently deactivated WhatsApp this morning, and switched over to Signal.
We went over to Signal. Okay. Yeah.
Signal is the way to go because now I think we are prioritizing safety, encryption, cybersecurity. And I think cybersecurity is going to be a huge, huge trend in informing the ways that people consume content and entertainment, and what privacy metrics are going to be around making sure that people feel safe and validated. So that's another trend that I'm seeing. And I think Signal was right at the cusp of, exploding. And then, of course, this new announcement came out about Facebook and WhatsApp, and now it's going to take a life of its own with, I think it was something, millions of people have downloaded Signal in the last week, and that number is only skyrocketing.
Love to talk to you about one of the big announcements. I think it was just before Christmas, where Warner Studios decided that they're going to release their movies online, not just as a theatrical experience. What does that portend? What does that mean?
I think it's a smart play for sure. I mean, I think they're looking for new ways to monetize, and they're looking at consumer behaviors and patterns. And given that we're all in the middle of an international and global lockdown, and people are looking for more content to consume, let's face it, we have more times on our hands, no more commuting happening, no more traveling happening. It's a smart time for them to release a new monetization stream. And, I think one would argue that it really takes away from their original mission, vision, values, and business model. But again, like I mentioned with Disney, they started off very similar to Warner and decided to pivot in. And I think innovation in tech is so important when it comes to making sure that you stay relevant and on trend. And I think Warner would become very outdated if it didn't sort of keep up with the global movement that's currently happening. And who knows if life will go back to normal after the pandemic, but right now we're at home, we're in lockdown, we need more content to consume, so why not provide it to people?
Pivoting back to podcasting again, there's always this juxtaposition between getting the consumer ear for a podcast versus terrestrial radio. Is terrestrial radio dead because of podcasting, or are they merging, or what's happening there?
No, that's a really great question as well. People always compare radio and podcasting, and my argument there would be that radio is on demand and podcasting is a whole production storyline. So it's sort of a cross between radio and a Netflix show where you're telling a story, but it's definitely pre-crafted and scripted, and there's a whole production process behind it. So it's not on demand. When it comes to radio, I think it's still a really big market, much bigger than podcasting, but definitely I would say significantly declining, especially in metropolitan and major cities, where people are switching to more podcasting style content. That being said, I think that the radio industry has a lot of opportunity for innovation, and I think that it's cyclical. Like it'll come back in trend, but I definitely do think that podcasting has sort of taken over, and not just with radio. I think they've taken over with most forms of content, with just the stats showing that people are now using it as their preferred form of content consumption. So we'll see. I think time will tell if podcasting is here to stay or if it's a fad, but I think that it's definitely here to replace radio in the short term.
We're going to continue our conversation with Fatima Zaidi, founder and CEO of Quill Inc. Stay with us.